Hi, I'm Shannon, and I want to talk about meeting God in the midst of liminal space. What's liminal space? Have you ever walked down the stairs and you think you're at the bottom, but there's one more step? And you know that feeling of kind of free fall or disorientation that happens when the ground isn't right where you thought it was? Liminal space is kind of the emotional equivalent of that. It's when what is known and secure and expected just sort of isn't there. It's a feeling of disorientation. Coronavirus, I think, has created a society-wide liminal space. There's financial insecurity, schools and businesses have closed. What that means for some of you is you've lost your internship or your student teaching. Some of you don't know if you will walk with your friends at graduation, and that's really hard. For all of us, the rhythms of life and the things that give us meaning and purpose have had to adjust or change. Our social support and community isn't there in the same way, and there's all kinds of feelings that come with that. Maybe you're feeling anxiety or grief or despondency or disappointment or sadness or loneliness or isolation or irritability. Maybe anger. Maybe thankfulness, right? It gave you a break that you really needed. And what I want to say is that all of those feelings are okay to feel. We feel what we feel. It's just being authentic. For me, my feelings today were really intense. I spent a big chunk of this morning crying, and then I got angry, and then maybe a little silly, probably as a way to cope with it. I have two words of what I think are encouraging things to say in the midst of this liminal space. And the first is that in the midst of that chaos and disappointment and disillusionment and disorientation, God can meet us in profound ways. Which actually makes sense, right? Because the normal routines and busyness that distract us, the illusion of control, are stripped away, and we feel a little more vulnerable, which means we can be a little bit more aware of our need for God. When my family moved to England in 2000 for my husband to get his doctorate, I left a job that was deeply significant and affirming. I left a community and I went to a place where I didn't have much to do and no one was particularly excited that I was there. The first 3 of our 6 years there were really hard. I felt lonely and isolated and useless. They were also really wonderful years. Because in the midst of that liminal space, that in-between, not knowing space, I met God in really profound ways. My relationship with Him grew, and He developed things in my character that I'm really grateful for. Liminal space with God can be such a good thing that when you look at the Bible, you realize God actually invites people into it. Think about Abraham. It seems like the first time they met, God said, leave your family and your country and go to a place that I'll show you. Leave what is secure and known and enter liminal space with me. Now hear me, I am not saying that God created coronavirus in order to create liminal space. But in the midst of the liminal space created by coronavirus, can you hear His invitation to be with Him? The second thing that I think we can learn when we look at the Bible and think about liminal space is that God can make liminal space an adventure. Think about Abraham again. God doesn't just say, leave, but He says, go to a place I will show you, to something new, and I will bless you, and I will make you a blessing in ways that are far beyond what you could have imagined or dreamed. And so I wonder, as we live in the midst of this chaos and uncertainty and all the emotions, might we also hear the invitation to be on an adventure with God, where He might bless us and use us to bless other people in ways that we could not even imagine.